I always like to say that I've probably talked more about fishing, fishermen, and their industry, probably more than any other, certainly Brexit pro channel or anti-Brexit channel. But in terms of just general, like, UK commentary news channel, I probably think I talk more about the issue of fishing than anyone else. In fact, I wouldn't say more than Nigel Farage, but at this point, I think I'm probably catching up to him. and um, we are at a very serious point because Brexit's really going to affect the British fishing industry in very, very, very negative ways. Like, there is no positive upside for for the British fishing industry in Brexit. And we've talked about before about the fact someone has to be betrayed. Well, I think it's the fishermen who voted to leave are going to get betrayed because they were promised this magnificent bounty. And I'm sorry, but your industry is worth, what, less than 1% to our GDP? There's no way Boris is that lunatic enough, even though I certainly would question that. And for anyone to say that Boris is indeed a lunatic or just outright insane, you'd probably be able to make a good case for it. And ultimately, I think the first group of people who are going to be the ones who are going to turn on Brexit are going to be the fishermen, because they are really the ones who were exploited by the Leave campaign, exploited by Nigel Farage, who again told their industry would flourish outside the EU. Turns out, vast majority of their catch goes to the EU because British people don't like eating fish. Those are just the facts, unfortunately. But before we get into it today, please do remember to hit that like and share button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link. And thank you very much to those people who support me. Now, you said that the fishermen would be the first ones to rebel. Well, have I got a story for you, because this comes from the London Economic. And fish merchant who voted Brexit to take back control of UK waters says he was brainwashed. Well, here we go. So, a leading fish merchant who voted Brexit to take back control of UK waters says he was brainwashed after the Marine Management Organisation unveiled requirements for exports from 2021. Speaking to the Financial Times, Ian Perkins of Ian Perkins Fish Merchant Limited said he wished he hadn't voted to leave the European Union in 2016, adding that tariffs on exports would be catastrophic for his business and the fishing boats that supply it. Earlier this month, he joined an extensive list of industry figures who put their name in a letter warning that the bureaucratic requirements the government says are needed to export fish to the EU from the 1st of January have a serious detrimental effect on our industry. Perks had been previously described warnings of fish being left on the dock after Brexit as a load of old tosh, saying that businesses will continue and thrive post-Brexit. His outlook, however, now seems less bullish. Chief among the issues, as pointed out by the Financial Times' George Parker, is that much of the catch is usually shipped to markets in Europe. Which, we've been saying this from the beginning, since we first started talking about this whole issue. Why on earth are you happy about Brexit. Why on earth are you voting for it in the first place? All your catch goes to the EU. And then this, I like this quote because this sums it up. He said, "The problem, rarely acknowledged by ministers, is that Britons do not much like the fish caught in the UK's rich fishing waters." So remember I said earlier that people in Britain don't eat fish? There you go. It's just, it's just a simple fact that we have so much choice, on the table, and fish is just becoming, less and less of a desirable item, whereas in Europe it really hasn't changed. But there you go. That's just part of the simple economic realities, and we've talked about that. And it's not just that. There are other things as well, of like industrialization, the difference between what we call the small boats, which were the vast majority of ones that signed up for Nigel Farage's, cruise down the Thames during the 2016, during the referendum, versus the big, large industrial boats that do in a day what it takes one of those small boats to do in a month. So, as you can see, there need to be regulations. And it gets even more funnier because we've gone over this, but it just bears repeating. You heard at the beginning, the Maritime Organisation. That is the governmental body that is going to oversee this. Well, they said, come 2016, we've got two choices. Either A, we put one person from our organisation on your boats and he monitors your catch, and if we want to do that, it is going to cost you X amount. The small boats said, no, we can't do that, it'll put us out of business. They then turn around and say, well, okay, we're going to put this chip that monitors you on, which is exactly what a lot of the European fishing fleets are now starting to do for monitoring. And they turned around and said, oh, you can't do that, you can't monitor us. And, you've only got to look back at something which we do not talk about a lot. I wonder if it's worth doing a video about it, called the Black Fish Scandal. And this was about how fishermen essentially played against the rules and tricked, the game, the system, and the regulations so that they could have a larger catch. And, so they say, oh yeah, you can trust us. Well, there's ample enough evidence to suggest that we can't, unfortunately. But there you go. So come January, there could also be issues sourcing workers if immigration rules don't change, begging the question, what good are fishing rights without the deckhands to actually fish them? And it's just, I'm sorry, guys, but this is a situation that you did to yourselves, and you've got no one else to blame for this but yourselves in this situation. Sorry, that's just the outlook that it is. But, this guy says, he was brainwashed. I'd much rather he'd come out and said, yeah, I've got it wrong. I made the wrong decision. I'd prefer that. But brainwashed really isn't too far from the truth. Because, again, the Leave campaign, Leave.eu, Leave for Fish, all the, Leave campaigns were putting out propaganda targeted at fishermen. So, in a way I can agree with him, but I wish he'd more come out and said, sorry, I got it wrong. But you can't have everything the way you want. But I guarantee you, probably you will start to see more and more of these guys come out and say, what on earth is going on? Eventually, not the Brexit we voted for, which I've talked about before up here. That article could very well be on behalf of the fishermen saying that. Again, it's a possibility, but again, we just won't know until it happens. So, thank you for watching the video, and of course, hit that like and share button before you go. And of course, if you would like to become my Patreon or support the channel in a way, there are links down below to my Patreon page, as well as a one-off donation link. And thank you very much to the people that do support me that way. And as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time.